When I started this business together with my sister, we had no idea what we were doing. And growing up, it comes basically from us growing up, because when we were growing up, our father would take us on site and we would go to his construction business every school holiday. And somehow I would always gravitate towards the office, and my sister would go into the construction site and she would watch the building go from ground up. And this went on for years. Initially, we thought it was punishment, because every time kids go and play during school holidays, we would get shipped to the other side of Free State, which is where we're from. And we'd have to stay there on site and see how things work. And we did not realize what was being cultivated in us as young women. And today, to be manufacturers of a plastic brick. Yes, I said it, a plastic brick. A brick made from hard plastic, sand, and other additives that ensure that it's strong, durable, and fire resistant. Now, when we were growing up, my dad saw the interest that we had in the construction business, and in 2013, he registered a business for us. However, we're still very young, so we didn't really understand what business was about, and he ran the business for us up until 2016, when we then started joining the projects a bit more and trying to understand the business side of the business. I have a finance background and my sister has an engineering background, so I never imagined that one day I'd trade in my high heels and corporate office for the site in safety boots and manufacturing of bricks. So in our business, we manufacture traditional cement bricks. Because we wanted something that was different and innovative, we went on to look for a problem that we could solve. And we found one undeniable problem, which is plastic pollution. And this is how we went into the prototyping of the manufacturing of the plastic brick. Now, as you can imagine, it's something that nobody could think of just waking up and making a plastic brick. It took months, up to a year of prototyping. And by late 2017, early 2017 rather, we had a product that we were comfortable with. And we took this product for testing. Now I get into how we got it wrong. What we did was we rushed our process. We didn't take the time to understand that there's something called a business life cycle. We went from idea phase and we shot all the way to growth. And the disaster that was there was waiting for us. It was cooking, and by the time it got out of the pot, it was hot. So we, in 2017, late 2017, decided we've got a product. We took it for testing. It performed very well. We've got prototype products. I think that word is very important. You need to remember it throughout my story. We had these prototypes that we then decided we're comfortable to go into the market, because you know what? We figured this thing out. So we rushed the process. We forgot the key element of business, which is patience. So when we went in 2018, we started discovering something called exhibitions, where you could market your product. And there's one exhibition, which is the biggest construction exhibition in Africa. And we decided, let's sign up for this, we're ready. And we paid money and we got a booth. When we arrived at the exhibition site, we were not prepared at what we found. We could not believe what we were seeing. We had big multinational companies that had booths. We had companies that we dreamed our company could one day become that had booths. So we had 10 times the size our business. We were there. And funny enough, we had all these big companies surrounding us, and we were in the center of it. And we had a very small booth because it was dependent on budget. The exhibition was for 3 days. So on the first day when we arrived, all we had was a tablecloth and our prototypes. And I remember my sister and I walking into Nasrec Center, which is the biggest exhibition site in South Africa. And when we walked in, you're intimidated by the time you walk in, because you see all these big stands that have all these fancy things and corporate gifts and everything else that's there to market their business. We did not even have pamphlets when we arrived, because we did not know the scale of exhibition that will be taking place. So when we got there to our little stand, we put our bricks there, we put our tablecloth, and we had 2 chairs and a small table. And the first day was a disaster, as you can imagine. We had companies that had the biggest attractions, and we had individuals that would just walk past. And this is an investment that we made, quite a big investment financially, especially for a small company. And sitting there and we're intimidated. You see people just look at the name of the company and they just see bricks. And for them, it's, I know what a brick is. I don't need to see this. So they'll literally come from stand X, which has these big, interesting things, and walk right past us to stand Y. And stand Y also has all these interesting things. So this was probably for like a good 4 hours, half a day. We're sitting and we're watching this happen. And one of the things that we did not realize we were going through, besides the intimidation, was we had so much self-doubt and so little knowledge of our product that we did not realize what we had on our table. We did not realize the value that we had created just by making this product and coming here today. So when we're sitting there at around after lunch, now we've had our lunch and we're sitting there and we're figuring out what are we going to do for the next 2.5 days. And we sat and said, and my sister says to me, we spent money to be here and we have to get a value out of it. And we then came up with a very, very good strategy that we use till today. Regardless of the size of our stand, we will stand outside and then we'll stand closer to the next stand so that when the next exhibitor walks from stand Y, which has all these interesting things and is blown away, before they even see this underwhelming stand, we're already saying, hi, do you want to see my plastic brick? And you already have it in your hand because they're going to be shocked. And that was the biggest attraction. And for us, that feeling of excitement, that feeling of overcoming was what then helped us, because we then said to ourselves, what? This is a place where we've put ourselves in. We did not realize that there is various stages to a business. We did not realize that when you put yourself out there, people will respond to what they see before they even respond to what they hear. And we did not understand that in business. Until today is what we see, because before we even talk to anyone, they say, oh wow, the plastic brick. And it's because of what they have seen before they even hear what we have to say. So all those feelings that we had at the time, all that fear, all that intimidation, we took that in and we said, how do we use this to turn it into a positive? And during these 3 days, I want to tell you, that was probably one of the smallest challenges we faced out of those 3 days. Because guess what? If you're at the biggest expo in Africa, you're bound to meet experts. You're bound to meet property developers. You're bound to meet brick manufacturers. So there were questions and criticism that was being raised. And I remember there was a time we were both sitting and we felt like maybe we made a mistake getting into this business, because we both don't know about it. We just know that you need to lay bricks in order to build a structure. You need to manufacture, but we don't really know what goes into the product itself, the standards, the requirements. And when somebody comes to the stand and he says to me, show me your accreditation, show me your R value, show me all these things that we had never heard of until that day. So those 3 days of putting ourselves out there actually brought us so much anxiety that we got to a point where we thought maybe this is not the route we should be taking. Maybe this is not what we should be doing for the growth of our business. And at that time, my sister and I, we feed off each other very well. We've got different personalities, different energies, and even in the business, she's got the technical background, I've got the financial and business background, and we feed off each other. So when we're sitting there, we sit together, we look at what's happening around us, we look at the criticism. We're getting criticism even on pricing because we had not gone through the right business stages. So we did not even know how to price the product properly. So we're looking at where we come from. This is how much this costs. You come from the Free State. Now you're in Gauteng. There's a different market altogether. We had not done any of those assessments. So when we were talking to prospective clients who were really interested in the product, now we'd captivated them with the plastic brick. When they want more information, there's even deeper holes. Now there's anxiety. There's even anger that you're feeling because you're thinking you have overcome this downfall, something that looked like a downfall, and then there's multiple others all in 3 days. I remember when we left that exhibition, my sister and I were exhausted. We were confused. We didn't really know what the way forward is. Yes, we had a lot of people coming to the stand. We drew a lot of interest. We drew a lot of potential business, which actually realized into business later. But at that moment when we're sitting there, we felt like we have probably taken the wrong turn. We need to stop. We need to literally switch this off, disconnect the electricity and go home. The party's done. And when we were looking at how much money we'd put in from idea phase in cultivating this idea and prototyping to trying to market this product to get to the customers, we had so many mistakes that we made, and the main mistake was just us not wanting to understand the business cycle or not taking the time to understand the business cycle, because a lot of businesses end up failing because we grow too quickly or too slowly, or we just don't grow at all because we don't understand where the business is in terms of the cycle. So we literally shot up. We didn't even get to startup phase, because when we were talking to some customers, believe it or not, somebody would say, I want 10,000 bricks. That time we can't even make 10 bricks. We literally have that few prototypes that we have, and now we're talking to somebody who's a property developer wanting X number of bricks, and you don't also want to look like you're a fraud or you're lying. So you sit there and you think to yourself, how am I going to do this? How am I going to market this product properly, appropriately, and to where we then had to sit down and be true to ourselves in terms of where in the stages of growth are we and where do we want to find ourselves in the future. And this is how we then got to identify what lessons we've learned from where we came from and what that initial situation taught us. Some of the lessons learned are key to us and we apply them till today. I'd like to share 3 of the top lessons that we have learned. The first one being business cycle. I know I've said this quite a bit, but it's actually very important because by understanding where in the business cycle you are, you're able to market your business properly, you're able to communicate properly, and understand what you need to do in order to get it to the phase where you want it to be. So with us, we shot up from idea phase and we went straight to growth, which was our biggest mistake. Hence, we exposed ourselves a little too quickly. Yes, there was a positive to it in the lessons learned, in the applications that we went forth after the exhibition. However, because we did not have an understanding of where we were in our growth cycle, we then were communicating to a client as if we're at growth phase, but we're actually at startup. So when we had customers asking for 10,000 bricks and we knew that we can only make 10, we had to have a conversation with the customer to say, this is where we are in our business cycle. Yes, the conversation was not on page 10 of textbook, whatever. It was an honest conversation with the customer to say, look, this is how we came about. This is where we are and this is where we want to go. So the customer actually was able to hold our hand and grow with us. And that is how with the 500 units every day that we manufactured, we could store for him, patiently waiting because he understood where in the cycle we were. So that is the importance of understanding yourself. And it goes with the saying of, in order for you to present yourself to the world, you need to know who you are. In order for you to present your business, it's important that you understand who the business is or what the business is and where it is at a particular time. The second lesson, which is also very important personally and business-wise, is patience. When we finally had that product that we tested and the results were remarkable compared to the traditional products that we knew, we were very impatient because we wanted to get to market. We wanted to get there. We wanted to arrive. We wanted to see the product in the shelves of the biggest hardware stores without us being patient, without us understanding where we need to go and how. And in us being patient and learning how to wait, in us knocking on those doors that were being closed because we were not there yet, in us being patient when we were asking for funding, and at that time, because we were not at the stage where you can be funded, we had to learn how to be patient. And I remember my sister and I would say, I'm the most impatient person. We would say that a lot. And my sister would always say to me, you know, when I look at where you are right now and where you want to go, I don't think you have the patience. I would always say no to her because I felt that I could be patient, but boy, did I learn that I had to be even more patient. Whatever it is that I had was probably going to get me to a point where I start being patient. That's how impatient I was. And in our journey throughout the years, up until where we are now, we had to be very, very patient and understand that things happen stage by stage. When we look at the fact that we've established South Africa's first plastic brick plant, and it took self-funding to get to the point where we were, and be patient enough to let the business grow organically to a point where we are now a suitable company to become an industrialist because we were able to apply patience in our growth phase. We were able to, through the understanding of lesson 1, where we were able to be patient until we got to that growth phase of the business cycle. And that helped us go through the entire process with the understanding of where we were and where we wanted to be. The third lesson I'd like to share is knowing your audience. You know, during those 3 days of the exhibition, we were speaking to different individuals. And when I would speak to an individual who wants to build a wall around their house, when I talk to them, it's important that I know how to sell my product to them versus when I'm speaking to an architect. They have certain things that they're interested in that the contractor is not necessarily interested in. So it's important that you understand your audience. It's important that you listen to your audience. A lot of times when we're listening to respond. And then we lose the opportunity of actually captivating whoever you're speaking to because now all you're doing is just responding, counter conversing with the person is what I call it. And the problem is you don't hear the key things that you need to learn. So with us, we had to take a step back. And when we're getting that criticism, rather than counter, you know, everything that they're saying, we had to listen and respond appropriately. So if somebody is saying to me, this is a brick made from plastic, surely this brick is going to burn. My house is going to burn. I had to listen to what they were saying and understand their concern. So in essence, they're saying to me, where is the SABS or whatever institution that says your product is accredited? Where is the evidence that your product is strong? So I'm telling the person that my product is strong, but when I listen to what they're saying, they want to see the paper evidence. They want to be comforted that I had my product tested. So it's important that we learn to listen. And when you're listening, listen so that you can understand who you're talking to, so you can respond accordingly. And just to give you guys a bonus lesson again, it's just for us how to work in a team. My sister and I are two different individuals, but we are able to work together because we have learned how to work together as a team. It's important that you identify your strengths in business, as a person actually. You can never do everything yourself. And in business, it's very, very important to know what you can do and what you cannot do. And if you're not as fortunate as I am to be running my business with somebody that we share a womb together, that is somebody I trust. If you are not as fortunate as that, there is also outsourcing. There's other ways that you can make sure that you meet where your weaknesses are. But it's important that you learn how to work as a team so that you can actually grow your business and you can get to that point where your business is where you dream it to be. Every time I talk about the business cycle, I get excited because that lesson for us is very key. And if anything you can take away from this is understand where you are, understand where in life you are, so that you know how to progress going forward. And that for us was the biggest, most key lesson, is just going from point A to point Z. Be patient enough to know when to get to point Z, and be knowledgeable of the people you're talking to, that when you're out from point A to point Z, you know exactly who you're talking to across. So I really, really do believe that our story or our being is through lessons of where we are going and where the business is today. Very exciting, very proud of what we've achieved.